Hi, this is Hugh Squire on the set of Rust. And Greg and I are going to talk about Baldwin and shooting his director, H.H., and how it relates to my life. Hi, Greg.
How you doing?
I'm good. I'm here in New Mexico, Santa Fe.
Yeah, I see. Quite a background there.
This is where Judith Vari Baker stays lately, in New Mexico, I believe. I find all of this interesting. I'm the guy that always wears the cowboy hat. I never knew that Hulu was a cowboy. Did you?
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
Eric Baldwin, that's my family member. The Baldwin family is my family.
He wears a cowboy hat.
He's making a Western movie called Rust.
Oh, right. So yeah, because it's in the 1880s. So yeah, okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, a little kid lost his parents and he was left stranded in the 1880s in Kansas. That's just like the Wizard of Oz, Kansas.
That's right. When the Wizard of Oz was written, right there in the 1880s by Bowe.
Frank Baum?
Yeah.
Frank's my little brother.
And the governor of Kansas right before that was Osborne. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, it's all interesting. And that's Judith Vari Baker's friend, Osborne, I believe. Osborne kidnapped me when I was 4.
Yeah, and this kind of ties with this Baldwin story because Hall wasn't part of that kidnapping, and Hall handed this gun to Baldwin.
Yeah, Hall kidnapped me with Osborne via Long and Wallace and Anderson and Andrews. All of them raped me when I was 4. It's interesting. Hall would sit back in a corner and masturbate in my face while the other people tortured and raped me. When I was 15, I saved Sue Baldwin from a biker gang that had already raped my first wife, Nancy Lavoie. And they sang a song about it called Black Betty. They told me how they got into Nancy's dance. And then when I was in high school studying, well, Sue Baldwin was my friend and Sandra Locke. And we would study after school at the Fox home with Judy Priswera and Sue Baldwin. A biker gang was going to pull a train on Sue, and I heard about it. And I got in a big fight because Sue was my friend in high school. And I stopped that, prevented that from happening, and got my buns kicked by a bunch of bikers, the same bikers that had raped my wife, Nancy, 30 of them. So Sue hung out with me, and my little sister, she was about 13 or 14, and Brian Baldwin come along and started having sex with my little sister, and they got married and had a couple of kids. So the Baldwin family has always been my family since I rescued Sue Baldwin at my high school from the bikers who were going to pull a train on her. And Baldwin, when Hoffa disappeared, he got a job on Hulu. And Lou is my mother-in-law, who was with Jimmy Hoffa when he disappeared at the Sly Fox. She was with James Hoffa at the Sly Fox. And then the FBI detained me in my Oakland County, Michigan driveway in Troy about the following day because I had bought a car from Whitey. And the car broke down, so I junked it and bought another car at a different dealership. So at that time, Hulu was being formed, and they gave you Eric Baldwin on Hugh, Lou. On Hugh, my mother-in-law was Lou, as the FBI detained me for Jimmy Hoffa's murder. On that day, the Oakland County child killing stopped. And the last 2 kids that were were kidnapped were my family member, President Gerald Ford, Timmy King. That's Ford's real name is King, not Ford. And he took to office after Nixon was thrown out with Spiro Agnew. The country got President Ford, and Timmy King was murdered. And a little girl was kidnapped from a 7-Eleven on Gardner Street and then thrown on my property dead. As the world got Eric Baldwin on Hugh Lou, and none of this is coincidence. And prior to, I have a witness here, and you know, I've told you this story myself, but Kitty, you don't have to show yourself on camera, but when my brother-in-law was murdered in Michigan, Rusty Hawthorn called me and told me he was going to kill Baldwin, right?
Yeah.
And then he was an actor in Hollywood, correct? Rusty Hawthorn
Yeah.
from Louisiana, and he was a truck driver, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he after he killed Brian Baldwin in Michigan, he called me back again, and he had changed his name to Rusty Killin, correct?
Yeah.
Can you say that louder?
Yeah.
Can you hear her, Greg?
I can hear.
Okay, so Rusty or Brian Hawthorn became Rusty Killin. And I'd already had 3 wives murdered at this time. This happened in what, 2017, Kat?
Yes.
2017, he called me, told me he was going to murder Brian Baldwin. And then my sister found Brian dead 2 weeks later in his apartment. And I told her he'd been murdered, but she didn't believe me. And then he changed his name to Rusty Killin, and he's one of these people who does voices, and he changed his voice into a girl's voice and told me his name was Rusty Killin, and he was going to kill his cat and smear the blood on my home, and then he was going to shoot me in the back of the head. And that's what Rusty Killin told me. Is that correct, Kat?
Yeah.
And then he killed his cat, didn't he?
Yeah.
Threw it out in our driveway.
Yeah.
He smeared the blood on the back of our home, correct?
Yeah.
I'm still sitting here. He never shot me in the back of the head. And now we'll go, and that was Rusty Killin. Now we'll go back to Alec Baldwin on Hugh Lou, and I'm Hugh, and my mother-in-law was Lou as Hoffa disappeared. And just prior to that, when I was 4, in 1957, Hall and Osbourne had kidnapped me with Wallace and Long and Anderson and Andrews, and all of them raped me, chained to a toilet in Osborne's basement. And Mack Osbourne was Lee Harvey Oswald's bunkmate in the Marine Corps. Correct, Greg?
Yeah, Osborne and Oswald, yeah.
Now, you remember when I told you when Rusty Killin called, that was when you first met me, and you remember me telling you this too, right?
Yeah, I think you played the audio for me. I think I heard it.
Okay, and that was back in 2017.
Right.
And then the girl that introduced you to me, Amy, she heard the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
and she was aware of it. So that's you and me and Kitty. And then Kitty,
Yeah.
come here. I went to make out a police report about Rusty Killin after he left a dead cat in my driveway and smeared the blood on my house. And we went to a police station, correct, Kitty?
Yeah.
Can you hear her?
Yep.
And they wouldn't take a police report at the first police station we went to, right?
No.
How many police stations did we go to?
5.
How many?
5.
5 police stations, and they kept pushing us around from police station to police station. And this is after I had 3 murdered wives. Nancy Lavoie hadn't been killed on the day they let the Bundys out yet, correct?
Yeah.
So we went to 5 police stations to file a report about Rusty Killin.
Yeah.
Okay, and what city did we end up in? A city near the California border, right?
I don't remember.
But it was the 5th station, and then he gave us paperwork to fill out, right?
Yeah, and mail it in.
And that was about, and we mailed it in. And that was about Rusty Killin, right?
Yeah.
And could you hear her, Greg?
Yeah,
Okay, and that was in 2017 after Alec Baldwin was on Hugh Lou. Now we'll go to Trump, who's accusing Alec Baldwin of shooting his movie producer. She was a cinematographer. That means she sat on a camera and took his picture in the scenes. So she had a frontal view of Alec Baldwin. He pulled the gun, pulled the trigger, and she got shot sitting on the camera. And a cameraman will be out off to the side or in the back or in front. The scene they were doing, evidently she was right in front of Alec Baldwin. I doubt he pointed the gun at her, but she was taking a picture of him pulling the gun and pulling the trigger, and she was in front of him and she got shot. But
right.
Trump
Hall
wants,
handed him that gun, right?
yeah, Trump wants the world to believe that Alec Baldwin loaded the gun, and that wasn't his job. The family that kidnapped me, Hall, loaded the gun.
Right.
And you know yourself, Osborne, he runs, the Osborne family runs the sex crime division at the FBI today, correct?
Right.
You've researched that. So let's get this straight. My mother-in-law, Lou, and I'm playing and driving truck in Oakland County, Michigan, where all the kids are dying. She's with Jimmy Hoffa. I get detained for Jimmy Hoffa's murder by the FBI even before Chucky O'Brien did. And Alec Baldwin is put on Hugh Lou as the internet shows up. And you have Baldwin as the, what would you call it, the sponsor of Hugh Lou. As Hugh and Lou were with Jimmy Hoffa as he disappeared. And Whitey had sold me a car that broke down a mile from the dealership I bought it from, and he was a biker running the vigilantes. And my second wife at that time, her brother was president of the Renegades. And the Renegades had raped my first wife, and they were gonna rape Sue Baldwin. And then my little sister met her brother, Brian Baldwin, at a lounge I was performing in Madison Heights, and she ended up marrying him when she was a young girl. And now we fast forward today, and the very family that kidnapped me at 4 with Osbourne, and then went on to frame the Kennedy family, Oswald, for the JFK's murder 7 years later. With 5 governors who had raped me in Osborne's basement. Hall handed my family member Baldwin a gun that was loaded with a live round. But nobody interviews me. And I have myself and you and Kitty and Amy, and the police department, 5 police departments, all a witness to Rusty Killin calling my home and gonna shoot me in the back of the head in 2017, 4 years ago. There's my number 4 again.
Mm-hmm.
And then he ended up shooting HH after they doubled me. They stole my trademark worldwide. Bottom line, it was an ASCAP federal publishing license, and they stole my IRS license and my name, Hugh Squire, Stern, Huey Lewis, Billy Squire from Queen. And this gay community, Hall, just handed Baldwin a loaded gun that killed HH. But nobody interviews me.
Like Hugh has 2 H's.
And
beginning in the last
5 police departments know this story after 3 of my wives were dismembered and murdered. and nobody interviews me. What kind of cover up is this, Greg?
It's phenomenal how all these pieces come together like this.
Yeah. So we have, I'm the guy with the cowboy hat who worked for John Wayne in Wayne County, Michigan for 12 years. Clint Eastwood marked me in his Dirty Harry movies and a lot of his movies, along with Robert Redford. The last Star Wars film was cast in the house I built in Oakland County, Michigan. And there you have Carrie Fisher and Harrison Ford, I believe it is, and I'm the Harris family. President Ford was my family member. His real name is King and Gardner, and I'm the Gardner family and the Harris family. And all media denies I exist as people are murdered. And the murders always go back to the gay people in Oakland County killing kids who kidnapped me at 4 on the day Admiral Byrd was murdered.
Always the same names, always the same people. I know.
Very same people killing other people, pointing me out to me, and everybody else on earth pretends I don't exist after people like DuPont at the WWF with Hulk Hogan and Ventura and Alex Jones stole my trademark, bottom line, and held bottom line events for 50 years, as the entire lawyers bar used the bottom line to study out of to pass the bar exam. And the bottom line was my stolen trademark and IRS license. And this has been going on for 7 decades now. And how anyone can deny I exist is it's just beyond me. A 5-year-old could Google Brian Baldwin and see he died and was buried, and he was married to my sister. And the police had, in 5 police stations, knew Rusty Baldwin called my phone to shoot me in the back of the head. The name of the movie Alec Baldwin is making is called Rust, and it's in Kansas. And I'm the Wizard of Oz, but everybody denies I exist. And we can end this video here unless you have something you want to add, Mr. Bowe.
No, it's phenomenal that they won't take police reports, which is common with all the murders and throughout your life. And I mean, I've had police reports made on all kinds of petty little things that didn't even matter, and they always take a report. Here you come with a witness and a dead cat and a murder, and and they won't even write it down. That's just unreal.
No, they won't do anything. They won't even talk to me.
And what kind of coordination?
And then they'll arrest somebody on the set, or they'll write her death off as accidental, and it was a murder. And
Right.
It was a murder by the very family that kidnapped me when I was 4 on the day that Admiral Byrd died. And I know
Right.
that the Hall nowadays, that's not the Hall that kidnapped me, but it's the same family.
Same family, yeah.
And Osborne at the FBI is the same family. And they're marking me with murders on a daily basis, all over the globe, in every country on earth, hiding my truth of my stolen federal publishing license, bottom line.
It's not a coincidence either. You mentioned you're 4, and 9/11 was 44 years after they killed Admiral Byrd.
Right. No, I'm well aware. It's always my 4. And I was
Right. You have
kidnapped.
movies like the 4400.
I was kidnapped and tortured at 4, and they pulled my fingernails and toenails off as torture so I would give them sex at the age of 4. I'm well aware of all of this, Greg.
Right.
I don't know what to say anymore. Put
4
this
years
video,
after Admiral Byrd, they killed Kennedy.
you
yeah.
know, and I'm sitting here, and that's the set of Rust behind me. And Rusty Killin, 4 years ago, called me on the phone numerous times, and you heard Kitty say it and Greg say it. And after he murdered Baldwin in Michigan at his home. I don't know what to say anymore, Greg. Put the video
Oh,
up
stop
on
it right there.
YouTube, put it up on Bowe, and put it up on YouTube. Let
powerful evidence.
the world know what's really going on. And Donald Trump, he gave you, when my 3rd wife was born, we need to say this. When my third wife was murdered, dismembered and murdered, Victoria Mellon on the Manning Ranch, where a Civil War ranch, and Manning and my alumni at Warren High School and Warren Consolidated, they co-created the JFK archives. When I was put on that ranch, Senator Graham ran the media in Detroit where I lived when I was kidnapped, and Roseanne Barr and Kathy O'Brien pretended they were me and said to the world as they worked for Senator Graham on Channel 4 and on WJR radio station, which Senator Graham owns, Trump's friend. They pretended to be me and covered up the Oakland County child killings with L. Brooks Patterson. And they did that so they could receive $20 million a year in federal assistance to solve murders they never solved. And then when L. Brooks Patterson died, I was right there the year before asking him to take reports from me about Osbourne and Hall and Wallace and Long. Mm-hmm. And he, instead of taking reports, he attempted to put me in jail with false accusations. He said I was 65 or 64 and I was too old to be in Michigan on my own. And they called all over the place trying to put me in prison, and gave the world Dr. Nasser at MSU, where I always played. I performed at halftime at the football games at MSU. As I attempted to say the truth of the Oakland County child killers, they gave the world Dr. Nasser to cover me up. A doctor looking at a women's anatomy, and that's what the doctor's supposed to do. And then they completely denied me any freedom of information reports. And Donald Trump appointed Barr, the family that lived on my street as I was kidnapped in Oakland County, who hid the Oakland County child killings. He appointed the very person who would never help me with my wife's murder cases. And I've had 3 wives dismembered and murdered on the Manning Ranch. Kiki Nelson, Ricky Nelson's cousin, Terry Heath, Sarah Heath Palin's family, and she created the Head Start program for Ronald Reagan. And Victoria Mellon and her father served with Kennedy in the Navy, along with my father in the Navy. And Admiral Byrd was murdered on the day I was kidnapped in 1957. And all this goes together. And Barr, who's blaming Baldwin, is hiding the fact that the guy that put him in the White House, Stone, illegally cut bone out of my foot as torture on the day they murdered Kennedy. And Stone went to jail for performing operations without any medical training. And this is what Trump's hiding. And all of
right. So that's his campaign manager, Stone.
Right. In New York. And my trademark was stolen from New York Foley Court. Federal Court. Foley Federal Court, New York, is where my federal publishing license for ASCAP and BMI came from. Frank Sinatra, Morton Gould, Bob Hope. And it's just unbelievable, the cover up in my life. And that was $2 trillion in theft in 1969 from Foley Federal Court, which led to Oklahoma bombing, another Kennedy being murdered, and 9/11. And then they framed OJ. I went to Furman School. As I became a publisher, Furman tried to frame OJ. And the first lounge I performed in Detroit was an NFL lounge. My girlfriend was Washington and her 2 brothers were linebackers for the Chicago Bears. As I was on the front page of the Chicago Tribune, and it's just unbelievable. The cover up in my life is not never ending. And Trump and Joe Biden and the Obamas and Clinton, all the way back to Reagan, after Nixon, after they murdered Kennedy, my friends who were helping me, they were working with me in the 99th, 100th, 101st sessions of Congress as they murdered the Kennedys. I even made a t-shirt for John, and they hide me behind anonymous stories and chewing on. They've made me anonymous and blacklisted me in all media. And Baldwin is just another blacklisting of me and Rusty Killin and the Hall family that became Daryl Hall's TV. And Daryl Hall raped me with Osborne in Osborne's basement when I was 4.
I see these cover-ups every day. I was just at the mall and I see Victoria's Secret, and that was your wife Victoria that was murdered. I Google her name, Victoria Milan, and it comes up with an escort agency. I see how they named Victoria Milan. It's
and
unreal.
Those are the corporations that stole my life. 2,500 American corporations, and my trademark was stolen worldwide. 2,500 corporations in one day all stole my trademark at the same time with DuPont.
Yeah.
This goes all the way back to 67. And then the people at my school were the parents of Angelique Jolie. And Aschenberg was the principal, and Howard Stern, another Jewish man, stole my name via Billy Squire, whose real name is Craig. Craig is chief of police in Detroit, and it goes on and on and on, this worldwide cover-up, because they don't want the world to know who killed JFK and his brothers. And then even as Hall and Osborne kidnapped me, I was introduced to my twin and Camille Sirhan. On the very day I was kidnapped, Camille Sirhan was sitting next to me in my kindergarten class, crying for her father. And they had moved her to my school, Hoover Elementary School, in 1957 from California with my own twin. And then my twin and Camille disappeared because he was raped with me. They dumped his body across state lines. And Camille eventually married my cousin. The Sirhan family is married into my family. And I was at their wedding when they said Bobby Kennedy was murdered by Sirhan. And all of this is a cover-up, just like Oswald did not kill JFK. And in my life, these are intricate parts of my life that I lived through. And it's all one great big cover-up, all the way to today with Baldwin and Hall handing him a loaded gun, and Trump trying to cover for the people who raped and tortured me at the age of 4, after he borrowed $5 billion from my family's bank and never paid a penny back. This is all related crime right in the White House.
Sure, and his tax lawyers were selling drugs. He has a lot to cover up.
Yeah, well, I stopped Noriega's gun and drug trade on my Utica, Michigan farm, and all the drugs that they got in return for guns were going to the auto companies. And I built the assembly lines in the auto companies at Christensen Corporation and Acme, Cleveland. We'll end it there, Greg. Bye.
Bye.